So, first of all, why are reputable resources important? Using reputable resources is crucial for a variety of reasons. Firstly, reputable resources are more likely to provide accurate and reliable information, as they are also interested in maintaining their credibility. By using unreliable sources, you risk damaging your credibility. Trust is a crucial factor, and since reputable sources are respected by experts and the general public alike, it will in turn support the credibility of your own work or arguments when you reference them. In academic and scientific fields, reputable sources often go through rigorous peer review processes, which helps in ensuring higher quality and accuracy. Using reputable sources can also help you avoid legal and ethical pitfalls, such as plagiarism or copyright infringement. Through sharing information, using sources builds trust with your audience, and in academic and professional settings, it's usually a requirement. Ultimately, using reputable sources is not just good practice, it's fundamental for informed research and writing. So an overview, we're going to be covering types of research sources, how to evaluate sources, and lastly, logical fallacies when evaluating. Some typical research sources: academic journals, reference works, books, magazines, newspapers or journalism, industry websites, which end in a .com, organization websites, which are .org, government publications and public sector websites, which end in .gov, .edu or .ca, patents, and public presentations. Academic journals typically undergo peer review processes, and they provide up-to-date research with findings in a specific field. Conference papers are a valuable source to find information about the newest research and innovations. Dissertations are in-depth research documents that typically represent the culmination of a student's academic efforts. These too undergo a review process by an academic committee. Reference works, such as encyclopedias, dictionaries, and handbooks, can be valuable sources of information if used properly. Reference works provide concise information on a wide range of topics. Many reference works include citations to primary sources, which can be very useful if you want to research deeper. Make sure that you do not cite Wikipedia in a technical report. This is because Wikipedia is a crowdsourced platform, meaning anyone is able to edit its content. The qualifications and expertise of the writers can often be unclear. Using books as a research source is often a highly reliable approach, especially when it comes to academic and scholarly research. Unlike shorter articles or web resources, books can explore subjects thoroughly. Books are typically authored by experts with significant knowledge and credentials in their respective fields. Academic books also often go through a peer review process. When using books as a research source, make sure to consider the publication date, the author's qualifications, and the reputation of the publisher. When using magazines as a research source, make sure that they are reputable trade magazines. Some examples are Wired, Popular Mechanics, and Computer World. Newspapers are useful for gaining insights into current events and public opinion. They provide a mix of local, national, and international news, allowing you to examine events from various perspectives. Newspapers also include opinion pieces and editorials, which can provide insight into the public's point of view on specific issues. Photos are often provided in newspapers as well. However, make sure to always be cognizant of editorial biases or political leanings. Industry websites, these end in .com, and one benefit of industry websites is that they are very easily accessible. They provide diverse perspectives, including personal blogs, news sites, and commercial websites. Some .com websites are also frequently updated, making them a useful source for current information. .org websites are usually non-profit organizations, with their main mission being to share information with the public. Government publications and public sector websites frequently provide official data and statistics which can be beneficial for research in various fields such as health or economics. These websites are usually ending in .gov, .edu, or .ca. And one example we cover in class was Ocean Network Canada. Patents. Patents are useful if you need detailed technical descriptions of a certain technology or innovation. For example, the Canadian Patents Database is an online resource that allows you to search and access information related to patents granted in Canada. Public presentations can be entertaining while being an informative piece of media. For example, TED provides many different presentations on various topics from speakers who are experts in their fields. Some other research sources you could use are radio programs, podcasts, social media, and many others. However, make sure to use proper judgment when determining whether your source is reputable or not.
How to evaluate research sources. Let's start with the importance of evaluating research sources. Today, there is an abundant amount of sources available to us online. However, many of these sources can be potentially dangerous. Since anyone can publish their work online, and many are good at making their websites look quite professional, it has become increasingly difficult to determine credibility in sources. All this considered, it is very important to assess the validity of your sources to guarantee that your ideas are well supported and that your information is accurate. The main criteria for evaluating a website includes authority, content, and purpose. All these must be considered when using a source. Authorship must be established not only to identify the source, but even more importantly, to evaluate it. When considering authority, ask yourself some of these key questions. Who created it? Who is the intended audience? Is this source funded? And if so, by whom? How did these people funding the source benefit? Was this source published by a reputable publisher? Given the answers to these questions, sources generally fall into two main categories: authoritative and popular sources. Authoritative sources are usually written by experts, for experts, they have reputable publishers, and have evidence-based content. Popular sources are generally created for a broad general audience and have soft, weaker evidence to support their claims. Content can be split into two main categories: methodology and data. Methodology refers to how the data is being managed, and data covers the actual information from the source. When evaluating the content of a source, it is important to consider how the evidence was collected, the scope of the source and whether it relates to your research, and whether the information is still relevant. It is also important to evaluate the actual information. You must consider whether the data has been tampered with to mislead people. You also have to consider, is the data of the source strong enough to provide legitimacy? Finally, does the source present data from measurable results and facts, or just personal accounts and opinion? The final key point to keep in mind when evaluating a source is purpose. It is important to determine the author's intent when publishing the source, as well as your own intent when using a source. Are you choosing the source only because you know it will support your data? If so, did you consider opposing data as well? Similarly, are you cherry-picking information when you know that there is a lot of information and sources that argue against your argument? These have to be considered.
Alright, now on to logical fallacies. Bandwagon fallacy. So this is an argument based solely off of popularity. For example, everyone else is doing it, so we should too.
Hasty generalization. This is a fallacy that, when used, you are generalizing data to a larger group than is actually true. For example, an Australian stole my wallet, therefore all Australians are thieves.
An unrepresentative sample is when you use data from a specific subset and generalize it to a larger set that may not share the same characteristics. For example, giving a survey to only female students under 20 and generalizing results to all students.
False dilemma is a logical fallacy where you're presenting information as if it is either true that this is true or false and something else is true, without considering other possibilities. You're either with us or against us.
The slippery slope fallacy is when you claim a single cause that will eventually lead to exaggerated catastrophic results.
Slanted language is a logical fallacy that uses language to manipulate the reader. For example, a person would have to be crazy to vote for such a crook.
The false analogy, or false equivalence fallacy, is when you compare your idea to another that is familiar to the audience, but which may not have enough similarity for an accurate comparison. For example, tigers and lions are ruthless killers, therefore house cats must also be ruthless killers.
Post hoc ergo propter hoc, which means after this, therefore because of this, which essentially states that since this happened after that the previous one caused it. An example would be, the rooster crows always before the sun rises. Therefore, the crowing rooster causes the sun to rise.
Begging the question, or a circular argument, is when you assume the truth of the conclusion by the premises being true. For example, Michael makes an excellent steak because he's a great cook. Or, you must obey the law because it is illegal to break the law.
Ad hominem. This occurs when someone attacks another person's reputation as a way to potentially invalidate their argument. For example, before you listen to her, you should know that she failed Engineering 240.
A straw man argument is when you restate an opposing idea inaccurately, absurdly, or simplistically as an attempt to undermine or refute it as valid. For example, person A says, I liked high school more than university. Person B says, then you must hate university.
Thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions?